Hello, Sirus from Sirus Gaming Spot here, and welcome to Sirus Gaming Corner, a gaming podcast where I and Swordfish1390 talk about various gaming topics. From old games to new, everything is fair game. So how's your evening so far, Sword?
Going well, glad to be back on.
For today's episode, we're gonna be discussing about another general topic. This time, it's about video game length and overall content. So, Sword, do you think a video game needs to be a specific length to be worth playing?
I don't think there's like a general rule book as to this type of game needs to be this amount of length. I think it really depends on the game, especially like we're big into RPGs, so I think that an RPG warrants more length than other genres because of like the content of their gameplay and the kind of gameplay they're going for. So I think that they tend to be longer and their length is more warranted. But in general, when it comes to other genres, like, you got shooters, your horror games, etc., they tend to be more on the shorter side, like 8 to 10 hours ish. And I think that that's actually a pretty appropriate length for that type of game, especially when the gameplay is not particularly deep, because a game with not the deepest gameplay can't really substantiate a super long playtime. So yeah, as a general rule, I don't think that there's like a precedent as to how long a game should be.
I do think the same generally. I think a game should be as long as it needs to be. At the same time, I do think there are games that are way too long for their own good, and also games that are way too short to fully explore its ideas that it's trying to show in the video game.
Yeah, like you said, I think it depends on the game in question, what they're going for, and when you have a game that goes on for like hundreds and hundreds of hours, then chances are it's probably going to overstay its welcome. But yeah, so overall, I pretty much feel the same way.
But at the same time, I can't understand why people needs their game to be a certain length. It's not even them wanting it to be that long. I guess part of it, a lot of it, I think it's got to do with video game pricing.
Yeah, I think like if I spend $60 on a game that I could beat in an hour, I know it's an extreme example, I'm just like for the sake of argument, like I don't care if it's the best hour of my life, I'd still feel like I got ripped off. Mm-hmm. So really, it really depends,
especially like for most not even AAA, just like general games, like not indie games, like they're priced universally at $60 or $70. That caveat does make it hard to justify spending that much money on a game that's won't even last you a night.
Right, yeah, it really depends. Yeah, it depends on the length. Sometimes even if a game is like amazing, if you could beat it in an afternoon or two and you spend $60 or $70 on it, it doesn't matter. Like I said, the quality at that point doesn't even matter. I'd still feel like I just got ripped off.
Even if a video game is short, I don't mind if it's short, if it's insanely replayable.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's actually a benefit of a shorter length, because chances are, if you it took you like 120 hours to beat just the main story mode of a game, and there's high replay value, chances are you're probably not going to want to replay that anytime soon.
Like take Persona 5 Royal. That game is like 100 or 120 hours, depending on how well you play that game. And there are New Game Plus bonuses to playing that game. You can only fight against the secret super boss at New Game Plus. So, but the game being as long as it is, you probably don't feel like replaying unless you really, really love the game to the point where you're willing to spend another 120 hours on it.
When I beat Persona 5 Royal, as much as I enjoyed it, I just have no desire to play through it again. It's just
and also like Tales, also like a number of the games that has followed the same pattern too, where there's a bunch of stuff that is locked behind New Game Plus. Like Tales of the Abyss, you can't even use any of the characters' second mystic arc until you do New Game Plus.
Yeah, and Tales of the Abyss is like a lot of the Tales games tend to be on the longer side too, compared to a lot of other RPGs. So
and Vesperia, especially the case as well. But I don't think, well, maybe, like I don't think it locks the second Mystic Arts behind. Like I don't think Vesperia locks as much New Game Plus content as Abyss, but it does lock still quite a few. And like there are some stuff that while they're not New Game Plus missable, you probably will have to on an initial playthrough just because of how obscure Vesperia is.
And to be clear, like for me personally, even a super long game like Persona 5 or a Tales game having replayability for New Game Plus, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like maybe,
yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We're just saying like if it's super long, like
chances are you're probably not going to want to do it anytime soon. You know, but like if you got a shorter game, maybe you got like an 8-hour campaign for like a horror game or something, and it has multiple endings, then chances are you'll probably be more inclined to boot it up a week after you finished it.
I'm just saying like replayability is a form of like, long form content for short games, and I'm usually okay with that. Like Tales in particular is particularly good for like it has a lot of content to begin with, but it also has a good amount of replay value as well. Not only through the like New Game Plus lockables, but also with just how the general combat system is designed. You just unlock more stuff on the New Game Plus option. And you get to like do stuff that you couldn't do before a new playthrough with those bonuses, which leads...
it definitely incentivizes another playthrough. Like in the future, like you might put it down for a while and then think, hey, you know, I haven't played whatever Tales of the Abyss in a long time, so let me boot up my clear save that I had from months ago.
I just think like Tales is like particularly unique in that regard, and that it has
for sure.
It has like a good amount of New Game Plus
like
exclusives, and it's very playable because of how the combat system is designed. You usually just don't want to replay it right away though, just because it is such a long game.
Yeah, it's a commitment for sure.
Yeah.
But the fact that I agree, that is something that Tales does that's kind of unique about RPGs. Yeah, they do. It's got good content, a good amount of content for one playthrough, and incentivizes a second playthrough. So that is something I like about that series a lot.
But it's like generally, going back to the short games, like I think like I'm willing to pay the full price of a short game if it's replayable. Like even though like video game price shouldn't like determine how good a game is, you're still buying a game at $60 or $70. So I do think like there should be some expectations in terms of content. So.
Yeah, because like as much as I adhere to like the quality over quantity mantra, I still expect some degree of quantity.
Yeah.
You know, for especially for the price that I'm paying.
Still, like if the game is too short, I am still going to be disappointed somewhat on a personal level. It's not the game's fault. It's just what I expect, especially considering that I'm buying the game.
Right. Like you might still enjoy the game and think it was a good experience, but like for example, I mentioned it before, but if you have a short game that has like multiple endings, I think that's a good incentive for replay value. Like I finished Silent Hill 2, for example, like 4 or 5 times, and I got different endings each time, so that incentivized. And it's a game you could beat in like 2 or 3 sittings. So
like
it's
for
easy
me,
to play.
Like I'm willing a game to be as short as 6 to 7 or 8 hours. Any lower than that, then I'm probably not gonna play through it. And like that's with the caveat that it has some replayability to it.
Right. But if it's like a straight 6 hours and you're done and there's nothing else to do, then you might, even if you enjoyed it, you still might not feel like you completely got your money's worth.
Like that's why I'm so hesitant on playing like, let's say, those cinematic walking games, as they say, as people call them.
True.
Because they usually are not that long. Like, which one's the cringy one about time travel or time rewind again? I forgot. The one published by Square Enix?
Is it Life is Strange?
Yeah, Life is Strange. Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Like, I played through it. It's good for what it is. Like some episodes, Life is Strange is better than others. Some is just But like, if my brother didn't bought it, that I bought it from my own out of my own pocket, I probably would have felt like it was sort of a waste of how there's not that much overall like content in both, like not there. I know it's like strange to ask for content in a walking simulator, sort of. But like there wasn't that really, I don't know. I just expect some sort of like quantity still.
See, actually, it's since we're on that topic of like replayability, especially for like a cinematic game. Now, I can't, hot take here, but if there's any one thing I can respect about like the Quantic Dream games, like Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human, is that like you can beat those games in just a couple of sittings, but when you replay it, you can have a completely different experience the second time around. I for example, so I Detroit Become Human, I do unironically enjoy that game other than the previous one, so I'm using that as an example. I did 2 playthroughs of that game, and my second playthrough was like almost a totally different story for me. So even though it didn't take very long to get through a single time, I still got a lot of bang for my buck because I was able to make like almost a completely different game for the next playthrough. And I feel like, I spent $60 for it, and I felt like I got my money and my time worth. So it was I think that's a good way of going about that kind of game too.
Okay. But yeah, like there's some sort of quantity that I do expect out of the games that I do buy.
Yeah, no, like I said before too, like me too, like I said, as much as I always stick with the quality over quantity, there's still some degree of quantity that I expect at the end of the day. So yeah, at
the same time, there is such a thing as too much quantity that comes at the expense of quality.
Yeah, like if you have like content like just for the sake of it, just to artificially lengthen the game, then it feels like ends up being like a slog.
They're like RPGs are particularly infamous for this, like for a few.
they're more notorious in that regard.
Because there's like a lot of fetch quests and a lot of RPGs. Like Xenoblade.
Like, I was literally just about to say that. Literally just about to say that. Like Xenoblade, I love you, but my god, the fetch quests. Good lord. Like, I'm not kidding when I say that I ended up having about probably like close to 300 hours on Xenoblade Chronicles, doing not just the main story, but all the side quests that I could find, and I still wasn't done. I still had more. I didn't finish rebuilding Colony 6. I still had more like side quests that I didn't even touch. Like, damn. But yeah, like it got to a point where, like I said, as much I love Xenoblade, I love that whole trilogy.
I think the problem is that I think most of the side quests in Xenoblade 1 at least doesn't feel that exciting to do.
No, they're just doing errands. They're doing chores for NPCs. Like there's very, very little. I'd say probably about maybe 5% of the side quests in the entirety of that like game's quest log has any semblance of substance to it, probably. And yeah, like you definitely get your money's worth in terms of like the quantity of the content. But yeah, like you'll talk to an NPC, hey, I need 5 of this. Okay, come right back.
Like I think the can be the too much thing is too much quantity. That like it could come to the point where you're doing so much side quests that you just quit the game because of how much side quests there is to do.
Yeah, that's actually funny. I had pretty much the same experience when I was playing Xenoblade, the definitive edition, because I beat the Wii version like years ago. Then I got the definitive edition, and I fell into that same trap where I just kept putting it down nonstop because I was getting into the story again and enjoying it, and then I keep getting distracted by all the NPCs, and then the side quests start to burn me out because they're just not fun. But I wanted like the experience, the skill points, and yeah, like it took me forever to finish that game. I was like, yeah, but it was just too much, It was. Now I know you don't have to. It's all optional content at the end of the day, but it's still there. I still wanted to engage in it, and yeah, it just feels like content for the sake of it, and it just ended up kind of like getting to be kind of boring.
But yeah, I think we mostly just talk about side content, right? Like in terms of main content, like we said, I don't think a game needs to be at a certain length in order to be good.
Yeah, if we're talking like a main story campaign specifically, like I remember when I was younger, if like way back when I was in like high school, I expected it like especially in RPG to be like, oh, if this game is less than 60 hours in the main story, I'm gonna be disappointed. Blah, blah. But now that I'm older, like I can play through like a 25 or 30 hour main story for an RPG, and as long as it's like done well, as long as it's well paced, I'm like content with it. Now, if you have a story, like if the story in question is like really rushed or something, that's one thing. But if it's like told well and paced well, and there's a good amount of content to get you through it and everything, yeah, no, if I play through a game that I can finish in 25 or 30 hours, I'm fine with it. It's like, you know.
Like I feel like I'm the same in that regard. I think I think like the most like I think the pricing is the biggest reason why people talk about game length so much.
Which I think is understandable, because if you're going to pay a full price for a game, I expect some length. Like I remember years ago when the DLC for The Last of Us came out, the Left Behind DLC, that cost I don't remember how much it was. It was pretty decent. It wasn't like, I think it was like $40, and that's something I finished in 2 hours. You know what I mean? So it was a good DLC, but I felt ripped off because I finished it I finished it in one sitting. I finished, you know. Good. So that's an example of kind of you know.
I think I've been lucky. Like I haven't really bought much DLC that I felt was too short. Like because I usually wait around to see if it's worth it or not.
Like I think a good example, I think a good DLC price and for content wise, I thought the Xenoblade 2 Torna edition was that was like a good investment. You got good length in that, good content and everything. So,
like I think Dragon Age Origins Awakening was a particularly good expansion slash DLC pack.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because like it's basically giving you like a mini Dragon Age Origin experience, you know, like after story pack, sort of like was it Final Fantasy IV that has like an after story thing?
Yeah, I think it's called the After Years or something like that.
Yeah, sort of like
I think it was episodic. Yeah,
sort of like that. Oh yeah, Zestera. Zestera also has a DLC.
Yes, that's that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, and then, like that felt like.
That was just terrible.
Yeah. I don't think it was really that. I don't really think length was the problem for that. I think.
No, it was just unnecessary, and it. If anything, it's funny because it ended on a cliffhanger. Like literally ended on a cliffhanger, and they did nothing with it. Like what the hell?
But yeah, game length and content can be hard to just like talk generally in terms of what is good and what's bad. Like I think you need to take a more measured stance on what makes this if this game's too long or too short or just right on a game-to-game basis. Just because like each and every game can be different depending on what type of game that they're trying to be or what type of experiences they want to craft for that game.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a clear-cut black and white issue of like, oh, long is good, short is bad. It's not really that simple. I think it's more nuanced than that. It depends on the genre, depends on like kind of what game they're going for. Yeah, there's a whole lot of like variables I think you got to consider, and price also, like we already also said before. So yeah, it's not. I don't think it's like that cut and dry.
And even games that aren't that long can still feel like they overstay as well, just because it doesn't introduce any new mechanics. Like
like intro. Yeah, that's like if you boot up the game and then what you see is what you get, and there's no new mechanics or any kind of anything.
I think
introduced.
You said you felt that way for Resident of Fate, right?
Yeah, Resident of Fate is a game where like I'm like the first hour of the game, like when you get that combat down, that's it. There's literally nothing else. I mean, and any weapons you get are just like stat boosts and things like that. There's no more mechanics being added. Yeah, and it's like a 40-hour game too, and then the combat is the same all the way through, and it gets really boring.
But yeah, like I said, appropriate game length and appropriate like content in a game like can vary. Like like the quantifier can vary depending on what type of game it is. Is there anything else to talk about this subject?
I don't think so, to be honest. It's a pretty simple topic, but it's a good topic to talk about. So,
but yeah, overall, game length and content. It depends. It depends on what's good or not. It depends on the game. It depends on the game and then on how it's executed. Like there are some games that I think really works well for a long form content, like Persona, Tales of, Star Ocean to a degree. Like those games, Final Fantasy, those games work well for a long form type of game. Even if like some of them aren't that replayable. Like I don't think Final Fantasy is that replayable of a game.
Yeah, no, it's for the most part, no.
And I'm not sure Star Ocean. I only played 4 and 5. I didn't replay them, so I'm not sure how good is their replayability. At least like compared to Tales.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could have like different character endings, but if I'm remembering correctly, it's nothing like too substantial.
Yeah, I mean in terms of like in gameplay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, the gameplay is like there's
like as far as I'm comparing it to Tales, which is very replayable in terms of how just because of how the combat the system is designed, especially the Team Symphonia games where you just unlock more shit the more moves you use. And later on, you got that with the different type of characters, since they make each type of character a lot more unique to each other and a lot more fun, and they feel like a fully realized character rather than like a side character.
Right. But then, but on the other side of the spectrum, you have games that work better in like a short form content, like kind of like a cinematic game. Like I said, like maybe Detroit Become Human, or even.
Catherine,
maybe not like,
I think Catherine works well for like an okay length.
Yeah. Catherine's a game like you could finish that game in about 10 hours maybe, but you have so many different endings. You have like all the different things with different characters at the bar. You can talk to them, and some characters can live or die depending on your choices. Yeah, that's another like there is technically a lot of content if you want to like replay the game multiple times and kind of see everything there it has to offer. So. But like Catherine if that game went on for like twice the length that it does for a single playthrough, I'd get burnt out because I don't think as much. I think the gameplay, like the block puzzles and everything, is pretty fun, but it wouldn't be enough to substantiate like playing a 25 hours. Yeah.
Edge.
Undo. Like, I couldn't take 30 hours of that.
I think I know I'm repeating this point, but it really does depend on the game and how it's executed. If its length and amount of content that it has is appropriate for the game. So yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's really what it boils down to. It's circumstantial for the game question, you know.
This is, I guess that's all for this episode. Pretty short episode, but
short episode, but it's a good. I think it's interesting to talk about.
This is Pierre from Sirus Gaming Spot signing off.
Take care, everyone.